All right, good morning, good morning. Got to talk to you about Trump proving he's a PDF file with his latest stunt, bringing Lawrence Taylor to the White House to be part of his administration, moving Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security prison. Okay. The U.S. is on a watch list due to human rights violations and so much more. Let's get into it. If you feel like donating to the Cash App, feel free. It's Hard Talk Radio 792. Let's get into it.
This opportunity would have been here right at our doorstep. We have an opportunity at being the 70th anniversary of the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition to literally change the fabric of kids' lives. And our first initiative is to bring back and reignite the President's Fitness Test, and then also reestablish some key other metrics on guidelines around building some communities, and also with the President's, I think we can help in that regard too. But we've got a great council with us that we believe we can change the fabric of our communities and kids' livelihoods for the future generations that are to come. I can't thank you guys enough, and looking forward to making massive changes in kids' lives and in our America's future. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say the same. Thank you to President Trump. Thank you for this honor. I'm humbled by it. I'm truly honored to be on this. Vice President Vance, thank you very much. Secretary Kennedy, truly appreciate all that everybody is doing for the health and wellness of the entire country. For me, since I was 14, this has been such an important part of my life. Health, fitness, sports, nutrition, all of it. I think learning that at a young age sets you up for success in life. And without it, you're in a lesser place for it. So I look forward to the opportunity to do this. I look forward to the opportunity to help make our youth healthy, help get them engaged in sports, and let them learn what it takes to be successful in life. So thank you very much for the honor. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you. Bobby, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. In December of 1960, a month after he won the election, my uncle, who was about to be president, wrote an article for Sports Illustrated called The Soft American. And he was lamenting the fact that America had prided itself on its beef jerky toughness, and that we were losing that. We were falling behind the Europeans. We were falling behind other nations. And he was signaling with that article that he was going to make physical fitness of our kids the centerpiece of his administration. And I'm so grateful to President Trump for bringing back this tradition. I was talking to Paul before we went in here. We were part of the Council on Physical Fitness when we were kids. And you had to do sit-ups, you had to do pull-ups, you had to do shuttle runs, you had to do 1 mile runs. And they awarded the top 15% with a badge and with recognition and with certificates. And for me, it was a huge item of pride when I was growing up. And we need to reinstill that spirit of competition and that spirit and that commitment to nutrition and physical fitness. And I'm so grateful to President Trump for your leadership in bringing this back for our country.
Thank you very much. Honored, representing great women in sports, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, Vice President Vance. This is truly an honor. I want to thank the team behind me here for giving us trust to be able to do this. Sport has always been part of my life, and the importance of living a healthy, active lifestyle cannot be any more important than nowadays. So thank you for the trust, and I can't wait to get to work to make a difference in kids' lives, but also in people's lives. I think the time is so important. Obesity is the highest it's ever been. Mental health, as we all know, the need ought to be tackled. So thank you for the trust, and look forward to going to work with the team behind me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Lawrence, you want to say a few words? Come on up. Come on. He's a little shy, but Once he gets going, nobody can stop.
No, that don't stop. I'm just proud to be on this team. I don't know why. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing.
Why would you invite this person without letting them know what they're invited for? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you inform him, Mr. President, of why he's there today? If he acts like this and you told him beforehand, maybe he has some sort of mental condition, let alone the fact that he has been classified as a child abuser.
But I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve you. Okay, so I'm going to do the best I can for as long as I can. Thank you very much.
Trump embarrassed himself. Why would you have an Epstein situation going on and you bring up somebody who's a registered sex offender? Nobody asked him. Nobody could talk to him and tell him, like, this is not a good idea. This is not a good idea. Okay? Why would you do that? I don't get it. And plus, you got Triple H there and did this stupid spitting thing. Okay? What was the point of that? This isn't WrestleMania. Now we got something else. Since Trump's loves to pardon pedophiles, check this out.
What the hell did he do? FBI uncovered his website on the dark web, where it was kind of like Amazon. Ulbricht, he was in prison for life, but was just pardoned by Trump. What the hell did he do? FBI uncovered his website on the dark web, where it was kind of like Amazon, and they sold assault weapons. And
the fact that you guys could be like, well, what about Obama? A pedophile is a pedophile. Okay? Okay, JCab? Think about that. You have them in both parties. Just shut up and get off the live if you're going to act this way. I'm tired of talking to you MAGAs. By now you see that it's both sides are calling out the evil of Joe Biden when he was president.
Drugs, like a lot of drugs. They even sold fake IDs. Very valid. And it's all his picture in a different name. Sean David Lake, that's not his name. There's one from the UK as well, but at least they didn't sell child porn, because that's what I was anticipating. Oh no, he sold that too. Yeah. But he's free amongst us now. This is a good picture of him, though. I'm sure he's going to use this on his dating profile and say he's a true rebel.
That's what's being said. Like, exactly, Zed. He couldn't get LeBron James? All right, you couldn't get some football players to do it? Retired football players with clean records? You had to get a black guy with a sex offender under his belt, with a sex offender charge under his belt, right? You can't tell me Trump is not racist. All right. Here's something else about what they're not telling you about Epstein.
Epstein never did anything wrong. Why is his bank still receiving millions of dollars then? Isn't he dead? Like, how is that? There was an Epstein bank? Yeah, well, in the Virgin Islands, so it wasn't subject to, like, law. In the U.S., they could just move money through and wouldn't have to prove anything or answer any questions. Move money through, like, for what? What were they paying for? I don't know. No one knows. Actually, still receiving millions of dollars. We're talking like $12 million since Epstein has been dead, has gone through this, and no one has any answer. It's almost like this was bigger than Epstein. Yeah, like other people are involved. Like this is a huge network of global things. A lawyer's saying that a lot of these payments were made in error. Like $12 million is not an error, you know? And the fact that there's been no oversight on the bank because they weren't doing any business because Epstein was dead. But then they found out that it's been pretty active and no one has any answers. Okay. Did you
Okay, let's play it again.
hear the news? They found out Epstein never did anything wrong. Why is his bank still receiving millions of dollars then? Isn't he dead? Like, how is that? There was an Epstein bank? Yeah, well, in the Virgin like law in the U.S., you know, they could just move money through and wouldn't have to prove anything or answer any questions. Moving money through, like, for what? What were they paying for? I don't know. No one knows, actually. But it's still receiving millions of dollars. We're talking like $12 million since Epstein has been dead, has gone through this, and no one has any answer. It's almost like this was bigger than Epstein. Yeah, like other people are involved. Like this is a huge network of global things. A lawyer's saying that a lot of these payments were made in error. Like $12 million is not an error, you know? And the fact that there's been no oversight on the bank because they weren't doing any business because Epstein was dead. But then they found out that it's been pretty active and no one has any answers. Okay.
Yeah, so all this about, yeah, you're right, he didn't kill him. He didn't delete himself. He also is still breathing. He ain't dead either. Okay. And I have a video of showing that Epstein's face shaved and possibly in Thailand. Possibly. I'll probably put that as a thumbnail. But let's read the article, shall we? Okay. Let's get into it. Here we go. Jeffrey Epstein's mystery bank came alive after his death. Southern Country International received millions of dollars from Mr. Epstein's estate in December. Okay. In the years after Jeffrey Epstein registered as sex offender, he closed his money management firm and started a business to develop algorithms and mine DNA and financial databases. Then he set up a bank. In a banking license application reviewed by the New York Times, Epstein described himself as one of the investing pioneers and said he wanted to pursue dynamic discipline of international banking. Officials in the Virgin Islands and the United States territory where Epstein set up most of his businesses approved a license for him in 2014 to run one of the territory's first international banking entities, a specialized bank that can do business only with offshore clients. The approval was unusual given Epstein's status as a convicted sex offender. The bank, Southern County International, its license for each of the next 5 years, but it is unclear whether it conducted any business or had any customers. Mr. Epstein, who died while in federal custody last summer following his arrest on sex trafficking charges, does not appear to have done any marketing for the bank or hired much staff. The bank was created under a territorial law that lacked many of the oversight requirements banks are usually subject to do, and its regulatory file is largely empty. A lawyer for Epstein told officials in the Virgin Islands in 2018 that Southern Country had not commenced operations, and regulators in the territory said they did not exercise oversight of the bank because it did not appear to do any business. And yet, after Mr. Epstein's death, his estate transferred more than $12 million to Southern Country, according to court documents. On Tuesday, at a court hearing in the Virgin Islands on motions involving Mr. Epstein's estate, a magistrate judge, Caroline Herman Purcell, questioned the estate's lawyers about the transfer to Southern Country, saying the disclosure was not satisfactory. The judge said she did not know why Southern Country would be receiving checks from the estate. There's no explanation for it, she said. A lawyer for the estate responded that some of the payment had been made in error, but the judge was not satisfied with his response and asked him to follow up with a fuller accounting. The checks listed in the estate's transactions for routine payments such as cable TV bills and phone service for Mr. Epstein's many properties stand out. The list of payments were filed with Judge Herman Purcell, who was overseeing his $635 million estate, including the possible establishment of compensation funds for his victims. That Mr. Epstein was able to get a banking license in the first place is unusual. His 2008 conviction in Florida from an underage girl required him to be registered as a sex offender. Bank operators doing business in the United States are required to undergo rigorous background checks, and most banking institutions are subject to oversight by the arm of the Treasury that investigates suspicious financial transactions. Neither was required by the Virgin Islands when Mr. Epstein submitted the application in 2013. The territory has passed its international banking entity law a year earlier in hopes of enticing investment from overseas. It modeled its law on that of the where international banking existed for 3 decades. Such organizations are attractive to offshore investors because the banks are able to offer more favorable tax treatment than the investors' countries can. In return, the territories expect residents to manage the banks, even though they cannot use the bank services. These specialized banks have drawn scrutiny because of their potential for abuse, including money laundering. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York bank entities in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico as high-risk institutions. Last year, temporarily suspended applications for them to obtain financial services from the Fed until it can issue stricter rules for them. Mr. Epstein was carefully evasive in answering questions on the application that was meant to reveal information about an applicant's criminal record. His response mentioned his guilty plea to state charges in Florida, but played down other elements of the case. For a relatively brief period in what has otherwise been productive and accomplished life, the application said Mr. Epstein did face some legal difficulties relating to matters alleged to have taken place 7 years ago. The application noted that a federal investigation has been discontinued, but that answer was misleading, said Richard Scott Carnell, a former assistant secretary for financial institutions at the Treasury Department. The application did not reflect that Mr. Epstein's plea deal included an agreement with federal prosecutors who promised not to bring their own charges. The agreement acknowledged that federal authorities have compiled a list of other possible underage victims. Bank regulators expect applicants to be candid, said Mr. Carnell, now an associate professor at Fordham Law School. You'd never suspect there was a non-prosecution agreement. As a bank regulator, I'd be outraged to learn that an applicant has misled me in that way. In his application, Mr. Epstein listed as references James E. Staley, the chief executive of Barclays, who had cultivated a relationship with Mr. Epstein while at JP Morgan Chase. Another reference was Andrew Farkas, a New York real estate tycoon and co-owner of a marina and office complex on St. Thomas with Mr. Epstein. Spokesman for both men said that they had been unaware that they were listed as references along with JP Morgan and First Bank, a Puerto Rico-based lender with branches in the Virgin Islands that long held some of Mr. Epstein's accounts. The application was subject by Enrique A. Carreras, a longtime taxpayer for Mr. Epstein in the Virgin Islands. She did not return requests for comment. Southern County had not commented on doing business as of April 2018, according to correspondence between Ms. Kellerhouse and the Territory Banking Department. Regulators said the bank was a self-reporting company, did not require additional regulatory oversight if it was not operational. Wow. The bank, but court documents show Southern Country was active for some of last year. Records filed by the estate on Friday indicate that Southern Country $1,157 in asset when Mr. Epstein died on August 10th. Then in mid-December, the estate transferred $15.5 million to Southern Country in 2 checks. Southern Country sent back $2.6 million, leaving the total it received at $12.9 million. Documents filed by the estate do not give reasons for the transfers. Okay. It was not clear what Southern Country did with that money. 2 weeks later, the year-end value of the Southern Country assets was $499,759, according to the estate's filings. The estate has told officials in the Virgin Islands that it does not intend to renew the bank's license again. Around the time the territory granted Mr. Epstein his banking license, it also gave lucrative tax breaks to Southern Trust, a company Mr. Epstein said was developing sophisticated algorithms to DNA and financial databases. The tax break came from the territory's Economic Development Authority, which was approved by the territory's former governor, John D. Joe Jr., while his wife, Cecil, worked for Mr. Epstein. Neither Miss Dijon nor her husband returned messages seeking comment. Wow, buddy, this is wild. This is insanely wild what's happening right here. I mean, what exactly? I'm sorry, everybody's lying here. That's what I see. Everybody is freaking lying right here when it comes to this. They're lying. You knew damn well who Epstein was. They're just covering their tracks. The tax break granted in 2013 was a boon for Mr. Epstein. Southern Trust generated about $300 million in profits in 6 years, and he paid an effective tax rate of about 3.9%. The source of Southern Trust revenue is not clear. The bare bones corporate filings made by the company in the Virgin Islands does not list any clients. Virgin Islands was long a place where Mr. Epstein got his way. It has lately cast itself as one of his victims. In a lawsuit last month, the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands, Denise and George, said Mr. Epstein had sullied the territory's reputation with his conduct. She sued Mr. Epstein's estate, seeking to seize his private islands and dissolve what she said were shell companies acting as fronts for his sex trafficking enterprise. The suit seeks to intervene in the administration of Mr. Epstein's will to safeguard assets for dozens of his victims, claiming the co-executives may have a conflict of interest because they were officers in many of Mr. Epstein's companies, including Southern Country and Southern Trust. The co-executors, Darren Indike and Richard Kahn, did not return requests for comment. Judge Herman Purcell, the magistrate judge overseeing the administration of Mr. Epstein's will in the Virgin Islands, heard arguments on the Attorney General's request. At the hearing on Tuesday, the judge said she would issue a ruling at a later date. This is what we're dealing with here, people. This is what we're dealing with here. Okay, we're dealing with a man who's faked his death. Okay, faked his death, was moving his money, still partying or doing whatever he wanted to do, had the whole world thinking he's dead. As a thumbnail. Their faces. Now we're going to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell moved to a minimum security prison.
Well, this is an incredibly strange story. We're now learning that Ghislaine Maxwell was moved from a federal prison in Florida to a minimum security prison in Texas. The prison is called Federal Prison Camp Bryan. It's in Bryan, Texas. As I said, it's a minimum security prison. They do like a lot of activities there. They do yoga, they do arts and crafts, they do Pilates. It's actually the same prison where Elizabeth Holmes currently is. And so it's unclear why they would move Maxwell to this prison, but it's obviously very suspicious and very odd considering that she just met with the Department of Justice and Trump's personal.
That was probably part of her plea deal. And she probably will lie on the stand. She will probably say whatever she can to get out of there. Probably lie and say Trump is not on the Epstein list. Okay. Why is Trump having any say-so in regarding the Epstein list? Well, he's the president. He's on that, and he's to a bunch of rich, evil child abusers. That's why he has a say.
Personal lawyer just days ago. One thing's for sure, this Trump Epstein Maxwell saga just keeps getting stranger and stranger. We're going to follow it every step of the way, so make sure you're following.
All right.
Prison in Tennessee to a minimum security prison camp in Texas. That move, which typically requires
happened just days after Maxwell and her attorney met face to face with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche for 9 hours over 2 days. Meetings from which we still have no notes and a less than completely clear picture of who else was even in the room. The families of Epstein and Maxwell's victims slammed the decision, saying in a statement, quote, "President Trump has sent a clear message today. Pedophiles deserve preferential treatment and their victims do not matter." For more, I want to bring in Dave Weigel, political reporter for Semaphore.
That's basically what it is. Okay. And his whole administration are okay with it, including Pam Bondi, who was at one of Epstein's parties. Trump knew Pam Bondi when she was like 13, 14 years old. And there's another picture where she's like a young adult, possibly, 19. All right. Pam Bondi was also known to take money from him, bribes. Just look up the information on Twitter.
And Carol Leonnig, Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter with The Washington Post. Thank you both for being here tonight. Carol, I'll start with you and your reaction to this new chapter in the Epstein controversy.
People have been protesting and asking and demanding questions. And what are you going to do? All he's going to do is walk away from you. Call you a weakling. That's it. You don't have any power over that. Unless you do your own digging. All right. That exactly, John Pollock. What does Obama have to do with anything? This is how MAGAs work. This is how they work. He's their God. Right? That's the same thing. It's the same thing with the Democrats when it came to Joe Biden and his pedophilia shenanigans. Okay. And when it was shown over and over again and people didn't want to listen to it. People worship politicians. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Look at Harry Wins. Trump is innocent. If he's innocent, why doesn't he release the Epstein files? Why is he having his name redacted from the Epstein files if he's innocent? He's innocent. But his name is all over the court case between him, Katie Johnson, and Epstein. He's innocent. Yeah, innocent. He's definitely God number one. No one can stop him. Trump 2036. Trump's not going to be alive in 2036. What are you talking about? 80 years old. Who's on weed? Charles, who's on weed? I don't smoke weed. Weed kills your IQ. All right. I don't smoke weed. Sorry, man. Wrong person here. Wrong
Our
guy.
colleagues Lisa Rubin and Ken Delanian reported earlier today that this was technically not allowed and it would have required a waiver to make this move happen. So how shocking to you is this move?
Exactly. All right. Adam, release Ashley Biden's diary. We all know that poor girl can't shower without fearing he's going to join her. Sniff, sniff. Okay. But Trump is the one that's of the focus right now. Okay. It's been mentioned over and over again about Biden's stuff. So where were you guys then? Okay. Democrats dropped the ball with Biden. Republicans are dropping the ball to hell with Trump. Jack, I am smart, thank you, and you're stupid because the Democrats and Republicans are involved in going to Epstein Islands. Okay? The Democrats blocked Trump's impeachment with the Republicans. I'm going to slay this real slow for you to understand, Jack Gonzalez. The Democrats blocked Trump from being impeached, along with the Republicans. Okay? Two wings of the same bird. They are protecting Trump because they are also on that list.
And does it, for you as a reporter, does it make you question if a deal of some sort has been made here?
Well, I think the only conclusion we can come to is that Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a less restrictive facility, obviously minimum security prison camp, basically a nicer kind of country club kind of location, because she agreed to sit for 2 days full of interviews. I don't think there's it looks causative.
Because Trump is now the focus. Clown. That's why, Gonzalez, you're one of the poorly educated. I bet you voted for Trump, and now you're crying that your relatives are being deported by ICE. I will vote for Donald. Get on the ground, FBI. Back. People are really stuck in this left-right paradigm. They really are stuck in it. These aren't sports teams. This is our lives here. And you want to think it's a sports team. Own the libs. Fight the fascist Republicans. And they're sitting back laughing at both of you guys. Okay, you voted for Trump. Don't cry when these cuts to Medicaid hurts you or hurt your family member. They look at you funny. That's all I got to say.
However, I will say the even stranger thing that's going on here is she's been convicted, tried, and sentenced to 20 years in prison.
What did you win? What did you win? What did you win? What did you win voting for Trump? A food shortage? Farmers losing their farms? Veterans can't lose their jobs? Can't get their benefits? What did you win? You're not a billionaire. In the words of George Carlin, it's a big club and you're not in it. You didn't win anything. You didn't win anything. You didn't really vote for Trump. You voted for Israel, the Zionists. That's who you voted for. You voted for them to have $3.5 to $4 billion sent to them every year. Free health care, free education. They get an enhanced passport to multiple countries. In America, you can't get free health care. You can't get free education. You didn't win anything. Your husband, what is this? Sharon Smith. Blah, blah. You're not very educated, are you? Because my husband did 25 years in the Navy and 25 years in the Navy getting bent over by a superior officer. That's what they don't tell you about the Navy, ma'am. He is going to tell you about that. Those situational homosexual relationships. He's not going to tell you about that, is he? Is he? There's a whole lot of Don't ask, don't tell that goes on in the Navy. Sharon. A whole lot.
And about Jeffrey Epstein, after those facts have been adjudicated, tried, established, what is the purpose of, for any law enforcement purpose, what is it other than trying to solve a presidential political crisis? Because that's what's really, I think, in the craw of so many prosecutors and FBI agents. What is really going on here?
I want to make one correction to what I said a moment ago. I think I said Tennessee. She is being transferred from Florida to Texas. David, I guess with all of this, is Trump betraying his own brand to a certain extent here? I guess trying to get into the minds of his base for months, for years, a drumbeat asking for the uncovering of a deep state, accountability, names to be released, people to go down. And it seems like the only material development we've had over the last few weeks is a convicted sex offender moving to more plush digs. How is this going to go over with the people who wanted a reckoning?
Well, let's break down who that base is, because the Trump electorate changed in each of his three races, and he definitely, in 2024, added the most people who you could call anti-politics, anti-establishment, little trust in Washington, and believed that Trump was going to kick rocks over and find not just whatever information the government had, but that information was going to put some of their enemy, the enemies of the anti-politics person in jail. It was going to find perfidy by all sorts of people. As soon as the administration started slow walking the files that were not, as it turned out, on Pam Bounty's desk, those sorts of people, and you see this in the podcasters who jumped on the Trump bandwagon after not supporting him before. Those people have been off of it. The people who are staying in the coalition are satisfied with a lot of the dust being thrown up by the administration on other stories. And you saw that this week, the intensity with which the administration has been looking for any documents related to the 2016 Russia investigation, the intensity with the House Republicans who have not subpoenaed Maxwell, who are looking at Joe Biden's final months in office and whether an audit them was used. That has, in the conservative media space, that has taken over the space of the Epstein story. The Epstein story was basically nowhere.
You're trying to distract people from it. You're trying to distract people from what, Trump has done. He's not going to get people to look the other way. You're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Losing control of his own Pentagon. That's right. In today's top story, Trump has been left stumped.
Yeah, you voted for Trump? You voted for Trump, Michelle Dunhill? Let's check this out.
As the Pentagon just dropped a devastating bombshell. Take a look at this. In a stunning development, a group of top Pentagon insiders has just gone nuclear. Of senior Defense Department officials from every branch, but the Guard is preparing to release a blistering public letter demanding the immediate firing of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And for Donald Trump, the fallout could be catastrophic. According to reports, the letter, drafted in secret since May, describes Hegseth as dangerously incompetent, erratic, and obsessed with his image rather than national security. Pentagon staff accuse him of creating a toxic atmosphere filled with paranoia, dysfunction, and political witch hunts. One insider didn't hold back, telling the Daily Mail he has no clue what he's doing. The letter slams Hegseth for turning the Pentagon into a vanity circus. Critics called a personal makeup studio, regularly stages photo ops lifting weights with troops, and has reduced the Defense Department to what one official called a cross between
Is this what you voted for?
a sweat lodge and World Wrestling Entertainment.
This is what you voted for? Michelle Dunhill?
And these aren't partisan jabs from the outside. These are voices from within, longtime Pentagon employees with decades of service, now in open revolt. This marks a new level of chaos for the Trump administration. The president is already under fire from cratering approval ratings, concerns whispered even within his own party, and an economic backlash from corporate giants like General Motors and Amazon. Now even the intelligence, his direct control, is beginning to fracture. Slams Hegseth's reckless decisions, like deploying 4,000 troops to Los Angeles during ICE protests, despite unanimous opposition from internal advisors. It accuses him of gutting diversity programs, leading to a spike in racist incidents and plummeting morale. One official said non-white colleagues now feel like they don't deserve to be here. So far, Trump's team is brushing it all off. A DOD...
I thought there was no racism in Trump's administration. Look what he's doing. Trying to create an ethno-state, a white ethno-state.
Revolt, palace intrigue, and sensationalized gossip, claiming Americans don't care. But behind the scenes, the president is reportedly blindsided. The man who once bragged about having total control over the military now faces a mutiny from within, and he didn't see it coming. With this bombshell, Trump's grip on power looks shakier than ever. First, he lost the narrative, then public trust, and his own generals are turning on him. And if this letter goes public, it won't just be a PR disaster. It could signal the beginning of a full-blown collapse in his authority. Yeah, at the end of the day, it seems as though Donald Trump's choice, Pete Hegseth, is on incredibly thin ice.
Hey, I'm starting to see where is Make America Great Again in this? All I see is make America go back to the past, where they could oppress minorities and try to silence the media. It's so bad with his fascism that we're on a watch list.
Talked about the fact that the independent international, Civicus, had placed the United States on a warning list due to the massive human rights violations that were happening, the order from Donald Trump, and of
Too bad you can't do anything about it. All right, cool. Remember that when you can't get food. Remember that when there's food prices are soaring and a famine starts. Remember, those MAGA supporters who had farms, they lost it under Trump. Biden had protections for those farmers. Trump rolled it back. And he will probably give it back to you saying like, oh, I did it. You see, I did it. I did it. When in reality, Biden already had that in place. You just put it back. If it wasn't broke, don't fix it. Just like when it came to the Iran nuclear deal. Obama put that in place. Trump rolled it back. You guys are truly the poorly educated. But what can I say? You guys literally went to Coca-Cola one way and there was no food. And he left you guys there. He left you outside and he left you guys there in the desert at night. And you all couldn't see that that was the utmost disrespect. That should click in your brain. This man is not worth my vote. If I'm going there to see him and to hear him speak, and he couldn't pay for a trip for me to go home. Teams to you guys, sports teams, until your child needs and you can't afford it. It's wild. Or your job takes away the union. And now you got to do whatever your boss says. And if you dare retaliate, you lose your job.
Of course, the attacks on freedom of the press. But at the time, again, just a couple weeks ago, we were basically on the warning list. saying that rights in our country are being eroded. On Sunday of this week, Civicus released a new list, and we are no longer on the warning list. We are officially on the Human Rights Watch list from Civicus for those reasons I just mentioned, and of course, many others. The United States, according to these international organizations, is now a place that is on par with some of the worst human rights abusers on the planet. Here is what they had said. It listed President Donald Trump's, quote, unprecedented executive orders designed to unravel democratic institutions, rule of law, and global cooperation, as well as its slashing of federal funding for organizations supporting those in need, the dismantling of U.S. aid, and reversals on justice, inclusion, and diversity. It also highlighted the Trump administration's crackdown on pro-Palestine protests through arbitrary arrests and student visa cancellations. This is an unparalleled attack on the rule of law in the United States, not seen since the days of McCarthyism in the 20th century, said the co-secretary general of Civicus. Restrictive orders, unjustifiable institutional cutbacks, and intimidation tactics through threatening pronouncements by senior officials in the administration are creating an atmosphere to chill democratic consent, a cherished American ideal, she said. The United States is being added to the watch list, partially also because we're ignoring due process rights in arresting and shipping hundreds of migrants to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador. We've been condemned for repeated attacks on the judicial system, from calling for judges who rule against the administration to be impeached, to arresting another on allegations of impeding an immigration-related arrest. So basically, we're arresting judges. Donald Trump is attacking the freedom of the press on any given day. He's ignoring court orders, so he should be the one being arrested instead of the judges. We are stripping law firms of their ability to even do their jobs through executive orders unless they're willing to pay him $100 million. He is accepting bribes from foreign countries, right? $400 million Boeing 747-8. All of this put together, we're cracking down on protests, stifling the First Amendment in so very many different ways, canceling student visas, illegally shipping people out of the country, and even when we're told to bring them back, we just don't do it, deporting U.S. citizens, giving mothers 90 seconds to decide whether or not their child, who is a natural-born citizen, gets deported with them or stays here by themselves, canceling U.S. aid, cutting funding for education and vital health services here in the United States. We're a hellhole.
Yeah, it's becoming a third world country. And the United States will soon become a third world country. These aren't lies. Look this up. Like I said, you think this is sports teams. You guys are poorly educated. You guys are, there's no talking to you people until it affects you. That's the only time you change. You've had farmers coming on social media saying, like, Trump screwed me over. I lost my farm. Yeah, Project 2025, but, I didn't read it. Whew. Right. And then you want sympathy and you're mad when people make fun of you. It's just no. Just no.
This just in, the United States has officially been added to a global human rights watch list as a result of declining civil liberties under Donald Trump. Here's more on this from The Hill. They write, the United States has been added to Civicus's monitor list of potential human rights threats, a move the global nonprofit says is directly linked to Donald Trump's actions since his return to the White House in January. Quote, restrictive executive orders, unjustifiable institutional cutbacks, and intimidation tactics through threatening pronouncements by senior officials in the administration are creating an atmosphere to chill democratic dissent, a cherished American ideal. That was said by Civicus's interim co-secretary general, Mandeep Tawana, who continued, quote, the Trump administration seems hell-bent on dismantling the systems of checks and balances, which are the pillars of a democratic society. We are seeing more and more signs of the erosion of civil liberties in the United States with each passing day. Most recently, we saw the arrest of a pro-Palestinian activist who had led the protests at Columbia University. Despite him being in this country as a...
This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. So let's talk about Trump's name being redacted now.
Breaking news. FBI, this is according to Bloomberg. FBI redacted Trump's name in the Epstein files. The Bureau's FOI, or Freedom of Information Act team tasked with conducting a final review of the records blacked out the names before higher-ups said last month that releasing the documents would not be appropriate or warranted. Something is fishy here. That team tasked with conducting a final review of the voluminous cache had applied the redactions before the Department of Justice and the FBI concluded last month that no further disclosure of the files would be appropriate or warranted. From the government's perspective, Trump was a private citizen when the Epstein investigation took place and therefore is entitled to privacy protections. You guys get the bullshit that's going on?
This is nonsense. He became president in 2016. You're no longer a private citizen, boy. You're up for grabs. Okay? Israel has the Epstein blackmail. Ari Ben Manishi, Jewish Israeli intelligence officer, confirms Israel has copies of the Epstein blackmail videos. He says Trump declared the Epstein blackmail files a hoax in order to remove Netanyahu's power over America to bring peace to Gaza. Yeah.
Epstein files were going to be. My take on it is that President Trump wants a deal in Gaza, wants ceasefire. For once, he's doing the right thing. He wants the right thing. He wants a ceasefire in Gaza. And the Epstein files were going to be used. They were afraid that the Epstein files were going to be used against Americans to put pressure on American politicians.
The people talking about the issues of America want those issues fixed. They don't hate America, Paul. You people are so dumb. You people are so dumb. You just want to ignore the issues that are boiling over in this country. No. You guys are, like I said, he's telling the truth. He doesn't like you because he was right years ago to say, if I want to run for president, I gotta run Republican because Republicans are dumb. Republican voters are dumb. I hate to say it because they're poorly educated and most of them live in poverty. Most Republicans live in poverty. And it's their racism that holds them back. And being educated. That's the thing. And it's the blue states that hold up the red states. Majority of Republicans are on welfare, white and on welfare, having a bunch of kids that they can't take care of, so they're on welfare. Don't talk about black people from the ghetto on welfare when you guys are leading the charge. And then you got the nerve to talk about violence and everything like that. It's the black man. No, it's the white man. Whites lead in mental illness, terrorism, mental illness, domestic violence against women, abuse of children, especially young girls, and serial killing. Knock it off. With it because we have a two-tier justice system in this country. Paul Salz. America first. Not America first. You're about white people first, even if those white people are rich and don't even care about the average poor white person or the middle class white person. America first. Oh, really? Being America first. Everything is Israel with Trump.
To go along with Mr. Netanyahu. And for once, the American government did the right thing. They said there's no files, forget it. But there will be no pressure on us from that end.
Well, wait a minute. If he has the files, he can still release them and not only put pressure on them, but embarrass the Department of Justice for lying about it, if he wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, that would be too much even for Netanyahu to do. Yeah.
Okay, Paul, just to show once again you are dumb, okay? Democrats and Republicans capitalize on illegal immigration. You think they're the only ones, Paul? You still get illegal immigrants coming into this country, working in construction, working on farms owned by Republican voters, Republican farmers working with the coyotes to get cheap labor over here. You have human trafficking going on in this country. America is known for human trafficking more than any country in the world. And both Democrat and Republican profit off of it. Corporations profit off of it. Paul, you know nothing. You just don't know anything.
Clearly, yes, go on. If he was working for Israeli intelligence, whether it was your
I am sure they have copies of the videos, and I'm sure they do. But Trump comes along and says, or somebody in the Justice Department comes along and says, hey, we have no evidence, forget it. They can say whatever they want, but we have no evidence, and we're going to do what needs to be done. Our policies are our policies, and we're not going to buckle under pressure from the Israelis.
Right. United States Department of Justice leaked to the media a 2-page memo that seeks to end the drama of the pedophile and sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, and whether there was evidence, particularly video evidence, that Epstein had blackmail material on a list of very powerful men, showing them committing illegal acts with underage girls. Also on Sunday night, as the memo was leaked, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was arriving in Washington for a series of meetings still going on at the White House, Congress, State Department, the Pentagon, and with other powerful actors in the Capitol. Netanyahu is seeking continued U.S. backing in his quest to ethnically cleanse Gaza of its Palestinian population and to continue his war against Iran. The Department of Justice Epstein memo said that its, quote, systematic review revealed no incriminating, quote, client list, close quote. There was also no credible evidence, the DOJ memo said, found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, close quote. The memo seeks to disconnect Epstein's crimes from any of the powerful men whom he associated with. The memo says, consistent with prior disclosures, this review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. None of the hours of video evidence Epstein filmed with hidden cameras in his various residences will be released or even discussed. The court seal on these videos, quote, served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing, close quote. The memo also says that video from the jail where Epstein was being held in Manhattan showed that no one entered his cell area on the night that he died, and thus the Department of Justice ruled that he died by suicide. Case closed. Or is it? Here to connect Netanyahu's visit with the release of the Department of Justice memo is Ari Ben Menashe, who is a former official with Israel's Defense Intelligence Agency. Thanks for coming on, Ari. First, you were on our show some time ago and you laid this out. I'd like you to do it again. Can you please explain, before we get into the details of the memo, what are the links, what were the links between Epstein and Israeli intelligence?
He was working for Israeli intelligence. As simple as that.
What was his job?
Collect information about important people around the world.
To do what with?
Sorry?
Do what with?
Maybe blackmail them or use it against them.
And Defense Intelligence, I think you had some personal experiences. Tell us how you know this and any direct experiences you had of this.
Okay. I used to work with Robert Maxwell in London. Epstein was a regular visitor in London to Robert Maxwell's office. And Robert Maxwell was the one that introduced Epstein to intelligence at the time. This goes back to the 80s. And we're all much younger than 1980s. Yeah. And while working with Maxwell, Epstein also met Maxwell's daughter, who became his girlfriend, who started working with him.
This is Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yes, Ghislaine Maxwell. And Ghislaine Maxwell is now in jail. She was sentenced to 20 years in jail for working with Epstein. There were a number of ladies that testified against her, that she was pimping them to other people through Epstein. And I'm just wondering what the Justice Department is going to do with Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently served years in jail, whether for exactly what they're saying did it not happen. Was the judge crazy? Were the four witnesses lying? Was the fifth one that died in Australia lying about all this? Did Prince Andrew, who was also connected to them, paid compensation to one of the girls? Did he just pay it for no reason? I'm just wondering about all that.
What was she charged, convicted of? Do you know?
Particularly, the conviction was about her working with Epstein and pimping young underage girls.
Pimping the girls to powerful men or to other men.
Yes.
Other men. There were other men. There was a client list, in other words.
Apparently there was, yes.
Because if there were no client lists, she would not be in jail for pimping them.
Correct.
So it wasn't that she abused the girls herself, although there may have been an allegation of that too, I think. But it was the men, Epstein and these men who did the abusing. She arranged a nice way of saying.
She was the person arranging these.
Right. With some people who might be powerful. Now, he took videos. Elizabeth, let me ask you this, because you're an expert on this. How many houses did he have video cameras in? I think it was Arizona, the island, Florida, and the New York townhouse.
I mean, that we know of. we have evidence of, definitely the New York City townhouse that you mentioned. Definitely that was allegedly reported to be wired completely. There was a whole room for surveillance, but I would imagine that all of his residences were wired for surveillance, for sure.
Right. And the Department of Justice is trying to tell us that these videos were child pornography and what else does it say here? It had nothing to do with any clients and that they won't believe because protecting the victims.
Yes, essentially they say that all of those hundreds of gigabytes of material were only of Epstein committing abuse himself. They don't even mention Ghislaine, although the victims say that she also participated in that abuse often, but they don't mention that.
See right here, Gold Country Skidaway says, well, Trump will most likely pardon Maxwell in exchange for his silence. And then Maxwell will have a sudden heart attack, textbook Trump. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. People are trying to ignore what they see. They're trying to ignore with their eyes what they see Trump is doing. They're willing to say he's the tough Don and everything, that he's not right, he's innocent. Meanwhile, he's showing his body language and his actions show that he is guilty.
Or that it was pornography that he had downloaded from the internet that was totally unrelated, and that he had all these residences, wired for surveillance, and that we should accept, though, that none of that material had any of those people in it.
So the key thing is it was just he himself committing these illegal acts, no one else.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to believe.
And the story completely changed. Pam Bondi a few months ago said that, all of these thousands of documents, she didn't specify videos only, she said documents, etc., were going to be gone through for review to protect the witnesses, but that stuff would be published. And now she's saying, oh, well, don't ask us to publish child pornography. And nobody's asking for that, for the first thing. And then, but so the fact that the story has changed from we are only going to redact what's necessary to protect victims and potentially national security to there is absolutely nothing you will see because there is nothing to see other than Epstein himself or what he downloaded.
Before we get back to Ari, what do you think happened there? Did Bondi not know what she was talking about? Did she know what she was talking about and was told to shut up? What do you think?
So what? She's 19. It's a prostitute. Prostitutes have diseases. Prostitutes are trafficked. The men in my comment section at times frighten me. They do. They really do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say definitively. I would be just completely speculating here, but I think probably she was just told what to say. Honestly, that's my take.
Right. Okay, so this was leaked to Axios on Sunday night, and a plane was touching down at somewhere in one of the Washington airports on Sunday night. It actually was 1 a.m., I think, Monday morning. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came. Would he have any interest in this kind of an operation that to protect an Israeli operation by any chance?
Well, my take on it is that President Trump wants a deal in Gaza, wants ceasefire. For once, he's doing the right thing. He wants the right thing. He wants a ceasefire in Gaza. And the Epstein files were going to be used. They were afraid that the Epstein files were going to be used against Americans to put pressure on American politicians to go along with Mr. Netanyahu. And for once, the American government did the right thing. They said there's no files, forget it. But there will be no pressure on us from that end.
Well, wait a minute. If he has the files, he could still release them and not only put pressure on them, but embarrass the Department of Justice for lying about it, if he wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, that would be too much even for Netanyahu to do. Yeah.
You can forget that. Clearly, if yes, go on. If he was working for Israeli intelligence, whether it was your
I am sure they have copies of the videos, and I'm sure they do. But Trump comes along and says, or somebody in the Justice Department comes along and says, hey, we have no evidence, forget it. They can say whatever they want, but we have no evidence, and we're going to do what needs to be done. Our policies are our policies, and we're not going to buckle under the pressure from the Israelis.
Right.
Is this kind of the last gasp of the story that we're going to hear, do you think? I mean, is this really the end, or is this going to go into the
I still want to hear what's going to happen to Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in jail for 20 years. If nothing happened, why is she in jail?
Yeah. I mean, even the conviction yeah.
Sorry, just a second.
Yeah.
And I really think, in a way, President Trump is trying to bring it to the war in Gaza, and he does pressure put on him by all kinds of stories on American politicians that think there's during Clinton days, President Clinton days, there was a meeting between Ehud Barak, then Prime Minister of Israel, the two people that were under pressure was President Clinton and Ehud Barak, who was also compromised by other Israelis. He was Epstein's best friend, by the way. Yes. And as a result of that, there was no deal between Arafat and Israel at the time. They were very close to finishing a deal with a Palestinian state in place. So maybe, I'm guessing, that the American administration this time did not want to repeat that story again. Maybe President Trump did the right thing. I don't know. Okay, to just say. But again, how are they going to explain the Miss Maxwell in jail? How are they going to explain that? How are they going to explain the testimony of the ladies that testified in court against Miss Maxwell and thing? So I think, in a way, this was their intentions were good. They were trying to put away pressure, push back on Netanyahu. If you noticed, all the meetings were private. They were not public like before between President Trump and Netanyahu. President Trump really wants peace and a ceasefire in Gaza. Preventing him from doing that is Mr. and people around him, and maybe some other politicians in the United States. But the idea is bring to a ceasefire in the United States, in Gaza, sorry. And if you noticed, he keeps on talking about ceasefire will be this week, then maybe next week, or so on, if you watched the media about him. So I think it's very much related to that.
What happened to his idea of his golf courses, resorts, and all of that in Gaza? In February, when Netanyahu was in the White House, he said he
Okay,
wanted to
he
defend
changed. He at that time he did not understand what he was saying and doing, but this time around, he really wants to achieve ceasefire in Gaza. I can promise you that.
And you told me when we spoke before that there's a plan to have someone come in and rule Gaza. Tell me about that.
No. The idea is to have the Arab League based in center in Cairo run Gaza with a Palestinian governor that will be appointed by the Arab League. And the Saudis are willing to put money in it, and the Egyptians are willing to give protection to Gaza by sending troops. And the Egyptians are also willing to lease land for an airport and an port. Lease land in Sinai for this. And the issue is very simple. Do you go along with the Arabs, or do you go along with Israel? At this point, not Israel, Netanyahu, sorry. At this point, I believe the American administration believes it's the right thing to do to go along with the Arab League and to stop the killing in Gaza.
And this is what you think Trump wants right now.
Right now, this is what he wants, yes.
And in order to remove the blackmailable option that Netanyahu carries, they decided to put out this memo saying there's no material, no blackmail material, doesn't it?
The reality is this, right? You got the Democrats who are for the Palestinians, and you got the Republicans that are for Israel. The Zionism, actually, because you have Israelis that are against what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. Okay? And it's the same left and right paradigm. And both sides support Netanyahu. The reality is Palestinians, the Hamas, fighting, they are for Islam, and Islam is basically world domination. It's just as bad as Zionism. Okay, world domination, no respect